I stood in the empty shell of what used to be my father's auto repair shop at 6 in the morning, holding an eviction notice with trembling hands. 2 years of my life, 14-hour days, missed opportunities, and every dollar I had saved were reduced to this single piece of paper. The shop that I had transformed from a failing business into a thriving enterprise was sold behind my back to my sister's husband Brad for a fraction of what it was worth. My father Frank had begged me to save his dying business, promising me 50% ownership once we turned things around. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was remembering his words from my college graduation. Men don't need gifts like women do, as he handed the keys to my restored 1978 Camaro to my sister Jennifer instead of me. That graduation day still burned in my memory like a fresh wound even after 3 years had passed. I had spent 4 grueling years earning my business degree from State University, maintaining a 3.8 GPA while working part-time jobs to pay for expenses my father couldn't cover. The tuition payments alone had required me to work 25 hours per week at a local warehouse, loading trucks during the overnight shift so I could attend classes during the day. Jennifer had dropped out of community college after 1 semester to marry Brad, a mediocre mechanic who owned a struggling garage across town. Somehow she deserved the car I had watched my father restore every weekend throughout my high school years. I had helped him rebuild that engine from the ground up, spending countless Saturday mornings learning about compression ratios and timing chains. I had sanded the body panels until my arms ached, applied 3 coats of cherry red paint, and learned everything I knew about cars working alongside him in that cramped garage. "Herman, you understand, right?" My father had said that graduation day, avoiding my eyes as he placed the keys in Jennifer's perfectly manicured hands. "Jennifer needs reliable transportation more than you do. She's got a family to think about now. You're a man. You'll figure something out." The sting of those words cut deeper than any physical blow I had ever received. I had swallowed my disappointment, forced a smile, congratulated my sister on her beautiful graduation gift, and driven home in my battered 2003 Honda Civic with the rattling exhaust pipe and the air conditioning that only worked when the temperature was below 70 degrees. 3 months later, everything changed in a way I never could have anticipated. Frank appeared at my apartment door on a Tuesday evening in late August, looking older than his 58 years and carrying himself like a man who had been beaten down by circumstances beyond his control. His usually confident demeanor had crumbled into something desperate and pleading. He clutched a manila folder filled with overdue bills, bank notices, and legal documents that painted a vivid picture of financial disaster. "Herman, I need your help," he said, his voice cracking slightly as he struggled to maintain his composure. "The shop is in serious trouble. Real trouble. I might lose everything our family built over 30 years. He spread the papers across my kitchen table like evidence of his failures, creating a mosaic of financial desperation that told the story of a business in its death throes. The auto repair business that had supported our family since before I was born was hemorrhaging money at an alarming rate. Customers were fleeing to chain competitors like Jiffy Lube and Valvoline Instant Oil Change, attracted by faster service and lower prices that Frank couldn't match with his outdated equipment and old-school methods. The customer base had shrunk from over 200 regular clients to fewer than 80 in just 18 months. The equipment was antiquated and breaking down regularly, requiring expensive repairs that Frank couldn't afford. The hydraulic lift in Bay 2 hadn't worked properly in 6 months, forcing the mechanics to use floor jacks for major repairs. The diagnostic computer was a 15-year-old model that couldn't interface with vehicles manufactured after 2010, effectively eliminating a huge segment of potential customers. Most critically, Frank's approach to customer service belonged to a different era. He expected people to drop off their vehicles without appointments, wait however long repairs took, and accept verbal estimates that often changed dramatically by the time work was completed. Modern customers wanted transparency, convenience, and predictable pricing that Frank simply couldn't provide. "I know I haven't been the best father," Frank continued, his hands shaking slightly as he organized the financial documents. "I know I made mistakes with that graduation gift situation. But this business is our legacy, Herman. It's everything your grandfather and I built from nothing. If you help me save it, I promise you 50% ownership, once we're profitable again. You have the education, the fresh ideas, the energy I've lost. I'll handle the mechanical work that I know best, and you handle everything else." The desperation in his voice was genuine and heartbreaking. Despite everything that had happened between us, despite the favoritism and the casual dismissal of my achievements, I felt my resolve weakening. This was my chance to prove myself, to show him that his son was worth investing in, to transform our relationship while saving the family business that represented 3 decades of hard work and sacrifice. I agreed to help, making the difficult decision to move back into my childhood bedroom and throw myself completely into saving Frank's auto repair. What I didn't know, what I couldn't have imagined in my worst nightmares, was that during those crucial early months when I was working myself to physical and emotional exhaustion, Frank had been meeting secretly with Brad at Miller's Diner every Tuesday morning at 7:30. I discovered this devastating truth months later when reviewing bank statements for tax preparation, finding repeated charges for 2 complete breakfast meals on the same day each week. The charges were always exactly $18.47, the cost of 2 breakfast specials plus coffee and tip. When I asked Frank about these mysterious expenses, he claimed they were business meetings with potential investors who were interested in helping us modernize the operation. The truth was far more sinister and calculating. He was already planning my betrayal before I had even started trying to save him, discussing with Brad the best way to exploit my labor and expertise to increase the business value before transferring ownership. Those Tuesday morning meetings were strategy sessions for stealing everything I was about to build. The complete transformation of Frank's auto repair began at 5:30 every morning when I arrived to open the bay doors, turn on the equipment, and prepare for the first customer of the day. The ritual became as automatic as breathing. Unlock the front door, disable the alarm system, start the air compressor, check the hydraulic fluid levels, and review the day's appointment schedule that I had created using a computerized system Frank had resisted implementing for years. I spent my first month conducting a comprehensive analysis of every aspect of the business operations. The inventory system was a disaster of handwritten notes and faded receipts stuffed into shoeboxes. Frank had been ordering parts based on guesswork rather than actual usage data, resulting in thousands of dollars tied up in slow-moving inventory, while frequently used items were constantly out of stock. The solution was a computerized inventory management program that tracked every part, fluid, and supply in real time. I spent 3 weeks cataloging every item in our storage room, creating detailed records that showed usage patterns, reorder points, and supplier costs. The system automatically generated purchase orders when stock levels dropped below predetermined minimums, eliminating the chaos that had previously characterized our parts management. I redesigned the customer waiting area completely, replacing the torn vinyl chairs that had been there since 1985 with comfortable fabric seating arranged around a coffee table stocked with current magazines and local newspapers. I installed a coffee machine that provided complimentary beverages, added a children's corner with toys and books for families, and mounted a television that displayed automotive maintenance tips and local weather updates. Most importantly, I created a transparent pricing system with written estimates for every job, eliminating the handshake deals and verbal quotes that often led to customer disputes and resentment. Every customer received a detailed breakdown showing parts costs, labor hours, and total charges before any work began. This transparency built trust and eliminated the uncomfortable conversations that occurred when final bills exceeded customer expectations. I spent countless hours training our 3 mechanics on customer service principles that went far beyond technical competence. Tommy Rodriguez, our transmission specialist, learned to explain complex repairs using analogies that customers could understand. Mike Sullivan, who handled brake and suspension work, practiced walking customers through their vehicles to show them exactly what needed repair and why. Even Old Pete, our 62-year-old engine expert who had worked with Frank since the beginning, grudgingly accepted that explaining repairs in plain English would reduce customer complaints and increase referrals. The digital marketing campaign I launched represented a complete departure from Frank's traditional approach of relying on word of mouth and yellow pages advertising. I created a professional website with online appointment scheduling, detailed service descriptions, and a photo gallery showcasing our work. I claimed our Google My Business listing and began actively encouraging satisfied customers to leave reviews that would improve our search engine visibility. The local search engine optimization strategy targeted keywords like honest auto repair, reliable mechanic, and fair pricing combined with our city name. I spent evenings responding to online reviews, both positive and negative, demonstrating our commitment to customer satisfaction and professional accountability. The social media presence I developed on Facebook and Instagram showcased completed projects, provided maintenance tips, and highlighted customer testimonials that built community trust. I negotiated bulk purchasing agreements with 3 major parts suppliers, reducing our costs by 23%, while improving delivery times and warranty coverage. The volume discounts allowed us to offer competitive pricing while maintaining healthy profit margins that could support business growth and equipment upgrades. Working 14-hour days became my new normal and my new obsession. I would arrive before dawn to prep the shop for the day's appointments, work alongside the mechanics during peak hours to ensure quality standards, handle all administrative tasks during the afternoon when customer traffic slowed, and stay late into the evening to clean equipment, update records, and plan the next day's schedule. Weekends meant catching up on bookkeeping that couldn't be interrupted during business hours, conducting marketing research to identify new opportunities, and performing equipment maintenance that kept our aging machinery operational. I taught myself to use accounting software, learned about automotive industry trends through trade publications, and studied successful shop management techniques that could be adapted to our specific situation. The results spoke for themselves in ways that surprised even my most optimistic projections. Revenue increased from $8,000 per month to over $12,000 by the end of the first year, representing a 50% improvement in gross sales. Customer satisfaction scores, measured through follow-up surveys I conducted personally, improved from an abysmal 2.1 out of 5 to an impressive 4.7 out of 5. We began seeing repeat business from families who had been dissatisfied with chain service centers and appreciated our personalized attention and honest pricing. Our reputation for quality work at fair prices spread through word-of-mouth recommendations that no amount of advertising could buy or replicate. During this period of intense growth and transformation, Jennifer started visiting the shop regularly, appearing during lunch breaks and slow periods, with what seemed like genuine interest in the family business. At first, I was genuinely touched by her apparent enthusiasm and support for what I was building. "I'm so proud of what you're accomplishing here, Herman," she would say, always with her smartphone in hand, taking pictures of our new systems and processes. I had no idea running an auto shop could be so sophisticated and professional. Her compliments felt sincere, and I appreciated having family support for the grueling work I was doing. "I want to learn about our family heritage," she explained, when I asked about her frequent visits and obvious interest in documenting our operations. "I realize I never understood what Dad built here, and I want to appreciate what you're doing to save it." Jennifer would photograph our customer database, supplier contact lists, and the detailed process manuals I had created for each type of repair. She seemed genuinely enthusiastic about the business for the first time in her life, asking intelligent questions about inventory management, customer retention strategies, and the technical aspects of modern automotive repair. I hoped she might eventually want to join the business officially and help us continue growing into a true family enterprise. I was so completely focused on the daily operations, customer service, and business development that I didn't question her newfound interest or wonder why she needed so many photographs of our internal processes. If anything, I was pleased that Jennifer was finally showing interest in the family business and hoped it might lead to a closer relationship between us. The truth was far more calculating and devastating than I could have imagined. One afternoon in late spring, while Jennifer was showing me vacation photos from a recent trip to Florida, I accidentally saw her camera roll when she scrolled past the vacation pictures. Hundreds of images documented every aspect of our operation in systematic detail. Customer lists with contact information, supplier contracts with pricing terms, our detailed pricing strategies for different types of repairs, and step-by-step photos of our diagnostic procedures. The documentation was thorough and professional, like an industrial espionage operation designed to steal trade secrets. She had photographed our appointment scheduling system, our inventory management software, our customer follow-up procedures, and even our employee handbook that outlined our service standards and quality control measures. When I confronted her about this systematic documentation, Jennifer's response was rehearsed and defensive, suggesting she had prepared for this conversation. "Herman, I'm just proud of all the hard work you're doing here. I wanted to show Brad how successful you've made the shop. He's always been impressed with your business knowledge, and I thought he could learn from your example." But her eyes avoided mine throughout the explanation, and her body language screamed deception and guilt. I realized with growing horror and disbelief that my sister had been gathering intelligence for months, systematically documenting every innovation I had implemented and every process I had developed. Brad owned Bradley's Auto Service across town, a competing garage that had been struggling to match our quality, customer service, and growing reputation. Everything I had built, every innovation I had implemented, every customer relationship I had carefully cultivated, was being cataloged and copied for the benefit of a direct competitor. My own sister was stealing my business model, my customer information, and my operational procedures to benefit her husband's competing operation. The betrayal felt like ice water flowing through my veins. But this revelation was only the beginning of a deception that ran much deeper than I could have imagined in my worst nightmares. By the beginning of our second year of operation, Frank's Auto Repair had become the most successful and respected independent shop in our area. We were booking appointments 2 weeks in advance. Our customer retention rate exceeded 90%, and local dealerships were referring customers to us for specialized work they couldn't handle efficiently or profitably. The transformation was visible in every aspect of our operation. The shop that had been struggling to generate $8,000 per month in revenue was now consistently producing over $15,000 monthly. Our reputation for honest pricing, quality workmanship, and exceptional customer service had spread throughout the community and into neighboring towns. I had invested not only my time, energy, and expertise, but also my entire life savings of $15,000 into new equipment and facility improvements that modernized our capabilities and improved our efficiency. The diagnostic computer I purchased could identify problems in vehicles manufactured as recently as the current model year, problems that used to take hours of manual inspection and guesswork to locate. The hydraulic lift system I installed allowed us to complete more jobs per day with dramatically improved safety standards for our mechanics. The air conditioning system I had retrofitted made the working environment comfortable during summer months, improving employee morale and productivity. I had even negotiated a partnership agreement with 3 major insurance companies, guaranteeing steady business from accident repairs and routine maintenance for their policyholders. With the business clearly thriving beyond anyone's expectations, including my own most optimistic projections, I approached Frank about formalizing our partnership agreement through proper legal documentation. We had been operating on verbal promises and handshake agreements for nearly 2 years, and I needed written confirmation of my ownership stake and investment protection. The uncertainty was affecting my ability to plan for the future or make major personal decisions. I had turned down job offers from 2 major corporations during our rebuilding period, including a management position with AutoNation that would have paid $62,000 annually with full benefits, retirement contributions, and advancement opportunities. "Dad, we need to get the paperwork sorted out," I said one evening as we closed the shop together, going through our nightly routine of securing equipment and reviewing the next day's appointment schedule. "I've invested everything into this place, both financially and personally. We agreed on 50% ownership once the business was profitable, and we're well beyond that point now. I need legal documentation for my own financial planning." Frank's response was immediate defensiveness, his entire demeanor shifting from relaxed and collaborative to guarded and evasive. His body language changed dramatically, shoulders tensing and eyes avoiding direct contact as he busied himself with unnecessary cleaning tasks. "Paperwork is just formalities and legal complications, Herman," he said dismissively, his tone suggesting that my concerns were unreasonable or premature. "You know I'm good for my word." We don't need expensive lawyers getting involved in family business. That's just money down the drain that could be better spent on shop improvements. His casual dismissal triggered immediate alarm bells in my mind. This wasn't the grateful father who had begged for my help 2 years earlier. This wasn't the man who had promised equal partnership in exchange for saving his failing business. This was someone who was uncomfortable being pinned down to specific commitments and legal obligations. I pressed harder, explaining that I needed proper documentation, not just for my own peace of mind, but for practical financial planning purposes. Banks required proof of business ownership for loans. Insurance companies needed documentation for liability coverage, and tax planning required clear ownership structures. Besides, I continued, if something happened to you health-wise, I need legal protection for the investment I've made here. We're talking about my entire future, Dad. This isn't just a casual arrangement anymore. Frank became increasingly evasive and agitated, claiming that lawyers were expensive complications that would create problems where none currently existed. We're family, Herman. Family doesn't need contracts and legal documents. Besides, I made certain commitments before you started helping out here. We need to honor those obligations first. Those words stopped me cold, hitting me like a physical blow to the stomach. What commitments? What are you talking about? The question hung in the air between us like a live wire, charged with implications I wasn't prepared to understand or accept. Frank realized immediately that he had revealed too much, his face paling as he tried desperately to backtrack and minimize the significance of his statement. Nothing major, Herman. Just some informal agreements with other family members. Nothing that affects what we're building here together. But I wasn't going to let this slide. Not after 2 years of 14-hour days and personal sacrifice that had earned me the right to know exactly what informal agreements might affect my future ownership of the business I had single-handedly saved from. Bankruptcy. After 2 hours of increasingly heated discussion that ranged from pleading to argument to painful confrontation, the devastating truth finally emerged piece by piece. 18 months ago, before I had even agreed to help save the business, Frank had promised to sell the entire shop to Brad in exchange for Brad paying off Frank's substantial gambling debts. The debts totaled $37,000, money that Frank had lost playing poker at underground games in the industrial district during a 6-month period when the shop was struggling most severely. Brad had agreed to cover these obligations in return for the guaranteed future purchase of the auto repair shop at significantly below market value. You've been using me as free labor to increase the sale value for Brad, I said, the words tasting bitter and devastating as I spoke them. Frank couldn't deny the accusation because the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Every improvement I had made, every system I had implemented, every customer relationship I had built was actually increasing the value of Brad's future investment rather than building my own equity in the business. I wasn't building my own business or securing my own future. I was being systematically exploited to build someone else's investment, while being deceived about my own prospects and ownership rights. The realization was crushing and infuriating simultaneously. Brad has a family to support, Herman. 2 young kids and a mortgage payment. You're young and smart and educated. You can start over anywhere and build something new, Frank said, his justification revealing the full depth of his favoritism and the casual, callous cruelty with which he dismissed my sacrifices and achievements. In his mind, my sister's husband deserved the fruits of my labor because he had family responsibilities that somehow made him more worthy of success, while I could simply be discarded and expected to rebuild my entire life and career from nothing. My 2 years of sacrifice, my $15,000 investment, and my complete transformation of his failing business were irrelevant compared to Brad's status as Jennifer's husband and father to Frank's grandchildren. The room seemed to spin as the full implications of this betrayal sank into my consciousness. Not only was I being betrayed by the people I trusted most, but the betrayal had been planned and orchestrated from the very beginning. Frank had never intended to honor our partnership agreement, or treat me as an equal partner in the business I had saved. He had needed my skills, education, and work ethic to make the business valuable enough to satisfy Brad's investment requirements and cover the gambling debts, but I was always meant to be temporary labor rather than a permanent partner. I was a tool to be used and discarded once my usefulness had been exhausted. After 24 months of relentless, exhausting work that had consumed every aspect of my personal and professional life, I finally decided to take my first vacation since beginning my efforts to save the family business. My college friends in Denver had been inviting me to visit for over a year, and I desperately needed a break from the physical and emotional exhaustion of rebuilding operations while managing family relationships. The decision to take time off wasn't made lightly. I had been working without a real break for nearly 2 full years, and the stress was beginning to affect my health, my sleep, and my ability to maintain the high standards that had made our business successful. I had earned this time off through countless sacrifices, and the shop was running smoothly enough to handle a week without my direct supervision and micromanagement. Before leaving for Colorado, I made several important preparations to ensure smooth operations during my absence. I installed a new diagnostic computer system that I had personally financed with a $4,000 loan from my credit union. The equipment would allow us to service newer vehicles with complex electronic systems, opening up additional revenue streams that could increase our monthly income by 15% while positioning us to handle hybrid and electric vehicles. I also organized a customer appreciation event for the week after my return, planning to thank our most loyal clients with discounted services, complimentary inspections, and refreshments provided by a local catering company. The event was designed to strengthen customer relationships and generate referrals that would support our continued growth. Marcus Thompson, our lead mechanic and most trusted employee, assured me he could handle the daily operations while I was away. We had developed detailed procedures for every aspect of the business, from opening and closing routines to customer service protocols and quality control standards. Our appointment system was booked solid through the following month, providing predictable revenue and workflow that would minimize any potential disruptions. I felt genuinely confident leaving the shop in Marcus's capable hands for 1 week of well-deserved rest and relaxation. He had been with us since the early days of the rebuild, understood our systems completely, and had demonstrated excellent judgment in handling both routine operations and unexpected problems. The first 3 days in Colorado were exactly what I needed to restore my energy and perspective. Hiking in the Rocky Mountains with friends from college, catching up on relationships I had neglected during my intense focus on the business, and sleeping past 6 in the morning for the first time in 2 years. I felt like myself again, remembering what life was like before I became completely consumed with saving my father's legacy and proving my own worth. The mountain air, the physical challenge of hiking at altitude, and the simple pleasure of conversations that didn't involve automotive repair or business strategy helped me realize how narrow my life had become. I made mental notes about establishing better work-life balance once I returned home and got the business partnership formalized with proper legal documentation. On Wednesday morning, Frank sent a text message that seemed routine and unremarkable. Handling some business matters while you're away. Don't worry about anything here. Enjoy your vacation and the time with your friends. I assumed he meant routine vendor payments, equipment maintenance, or scheduling adjustments that didn't require my input. Frank had never been one for detailed communication or lengthy explanations, so the vagueness didn't immediately concern me or trigger any suspicion. I was actually pleased that he was taking initiative and handling business responsibilities without constantly consulting me about minor decisions. Thursday and Friday passed without incident, though I noticed Frank wasn't responding to my casual check-in texts as promptly as usual. When I sent photos of mountain views or updates about hiking adventures, his responses were delayed and brief rather than the enthusiastic engagement I had expected. I attributed this pattern to him being busy with shop operations and tried to focus on enjoying my remaining time with friends. Saturday morning at 8:15, my phone exploded with calls and texts from Marcus. His voice was panicked, confused, and desperate when I finally answered the fourth call. "Herman, you need to get back here immediately. Something terrible is happening. There are people clearing out the shop with moving trucks. They're saying the business was sold. They have legal documents and police escorts. Frank is here, but he won't explain what's happening or talk to any of us." The 3-hour drive from Denver to our town felt like the longest and most agonizing journey of my life. Marcus kept calling with updates that made less and less sense with each conversation. Strangers with clipboards were inventorying our equipment piece by piece. Customers were being turned away from scheduled appointments. and the shop signs were being removed and replaced with new branding. Frank was present but refusing to speak to anyone, referring all questions to a lawyer whose business card he handed out, like advertising flyers. The mechanics were standing around helplessly, unsure whether they still had jobs or should look for new employment. Customers were confused and angry about canceled appointments and unclear explanations about ownership changes. I called Frank directly from the highway, but he wouldn't answer his phone. Jennifer's number went straight to voicemail. Brad answered on the first ring with barely concealed satisfaction in his voice. "Herman, I heard you were on vacation. Perfect timing. Don't worry about rushing back. Everything here is being handled professionally." I arrived at the shop to find it transformed into what looked like a crime scene of systematic dismantling and theft. Men in coveralls were loading my personally owned tools into a moving truck, claiming they were shop property according to the sale agreement they refused to let me examine. The diagnostic computer I had just installed and personally financed was being carefully packaged for transport to Brad's garage across town. My custom tool collection, accumulated over years of automotive work and representing thousands of dollars in personal investment, was disappearing into boxes labeled for Bradley's Premium Auto Service. When I protested that these were my personal possessions, I was shown a sales document that claimed all tools and equipment currently on the premises were included in the business sale. The sale documents, thrust into my hands by a smirking Brad who was clearly enjoying my distress and confusion, were dated 3 days earlier while I was hiking in the Colorado mountains. Frank had sold the entire business, including all equipment, customer lists, business name, and even our telephone number, for $60,000. The actual value of the business, based on our consistent monthly revenue of $15,000 and our established customer base of over 300 active clients, exceeded $200,000 by any reasonable valuation method. This wasn't just a sale at below market value. It was outright theft, disguised as a legal transaction. Brad immediately began directing workers to install new signage, reading Bradley's Premium Auto Service while our loyal customers stood in the parking lot, confused and abandoned by the sudden change in ownership. 2 years of relationship building, reputation management, and customer trust were being transferred to a man who had contributed absolutely nothing to their development. The most devastating detail was buried in the fine print of the sale agreement. The transaction included all tools and equipment currently on the premises, regardless of personal ownership or individual investment. My $4,000 diagnostic computer, the specialty tools I had purchased with my own money over several years, and even the coffee machine I had bought for the customer waiting room were now legally Brad's property. Standing in the empty bay, where I had spent countless hours rebuilding engines, training mechanics, and developing the systems that had transformed a failing business into a thriving enterprise, I realized that my father had not simply sold a business. He had sold my past, my present, and what I had believed would be my future, all while I was taking my first vacation in 2 years. The following Monday morning at 9 o'clock sharp, I sat in the professional office of Sarah Martinez, the most respected and experienced business attorney in our county. Her reputation for handling complex commercial disputes and family business conflicts had earned her referrals from 3 different lawyers I had consulted over the weekend. The consultation fee of $300 represented a significant chunk of my remaining savings after Frank's betrayal, but I needed to understand my legal options and the full extent of what had been done to me. Sarah's office walls displayed law degrees from Georgetown University and numerous awards for business litigation excellence that gave me confidence in her expertise. Sarah reviewed the sale documents with the methodical precision and attention to detail of someone who had seen every type of business dispute imaginable during 20 years of practice. Her expression grew increasingly serious and concerned as she examined the paperwork, particularly the sections dealing with ownership transfers, asset allocation, and the various waivers and releases that accompanied the main sale agreement. "Herman, there's a significant legal problem with these documents," she said after 40 minutes of careful examination, pointing to a signature on the final page with her expensive fountain pen. "This appears to be your signature on a comprehensive waiver renouncing any claim to business ownership, but the handwriting analysis software in my computer shows clear and obvious inconsistencies with your actual signature on these other legitimate documents you brought for comparison. Frank had forged my signature on multiple pages throughout the sale agreement, creating an elaborate paper trail that supposedly showed me voluntarily and willingly giving up any rights to the business. The forgery was sophisticated enough to fool a casual observer or notary who wasn't looking carefully, but it wouldn't withstand professional scrutiny or expert analysis. This isn't a spontaneous decision made in the heat of the moment, Sarah continued, her tone becoming more serious as she understood the implications. This level of documentation and preparation indicates premeditated fraud that was planned and executed over an extended period. Someone spent considerable time and effort creating these false documents. The good news is that forgery constitutes criminal fraud, which gives us several powerful legal avenues for both civil recovery and criminal prosecution, Sarah explained. The bad news is that family business disputes are expensive, time-consuming, emotionally devastating for everyone involved, and unpredictable in their outcomes. Even if we win a complete victory, you might spend 2 to 3 years in active litigation and $40,000 to $60,000 in legal fees. While Sarah outlined the legal strategy options available to us, including fraud charges, business interference claims, and asset recovery procedures, I was already formulating a different and more immediate kind of counterattack. I had spent 2 years learning every aspect of the automotive repair business, from customer psychology and service pricing to supplier relationships and employee management. Frank and Brad had stolen my business, my equipment, and my customer lists, but they couldn't steal my knowledge, my reputation in the community, or my determination to succeed despite their betrayal. More importantly, they couldn't steal the personal relationships I had built with customers who trusted Herman the mechanic rather than Frank's Auto Repair or Bradley's Premium Auto Service. My investigation into Brad's background and business history revealed fascinating and encouraging information that suggested his operation was far more vulnerable than it appeared. Bradley's Auto Service had been operating at a consistent loss for 8 months, despite Brad's public claims of success and profitability. His financial statements, obtained through public records and supplier credit reports, showed declining revenue and increasing debts. He had been deliberately underbidding jobs and providing substandard service for months, apparently planning to inherit my customer base and operational systems rather than compete fairly in the marketplace. Brad's strategy had been to survive long enough to steal everything I had built rather than develop his own competitive advantages. The intelligence gathering that Jennifer had conducted wasn't just casual documentation of a family business. It was part of a coordinated scheme to steal my business model, customer information, and operational procedures. Brad knew exactly which suppliers I used, how I priced different services, which customers generated the most revenue, and what quality standards had made us successful. He had essentially received a complete MBA-level business plan without investing any time or effort in developing it himself. But knowledge and intelligence worked both ways. I had observed Brad's operation during his struggling months and understood his weaknesses better than he realized. He lacked the technical skills to handle complex repairs that required modern diagnostic equipment. His customer service instincts were poor, leading to complaints and negative reviews that damaged his reputation. Most critically, he relied on outdated equipment and old-fashioned methods that couldn't compete with modern efficiency standards. More importantly, I had built genuine personal relationships with key suppliers, insurance adjusters, and customers that couldn't be transferred through a legal document or copied through stolen information. These people trusted Herman personally, not Frank's Auto Repair or Bradley's Premium Auto Service. They had worked with me directly, appreciated my honesty and expertise, and would be willing to follow me to a new location if I could establish one. I also discovered through casual conversations that 3 of our best mechanics were already unhappy with Brad's management style and his decision to reduce their hours to cut operating costs. Marcus had called me twice, asking if I planned to start my own shop and whether I would consider hiring experienced technicians who missed working in a professional environment with proper equipment and fair treatment. The final piece of my counterattack strategy came from an unexpected source that seemed almost too good to be true. While researching commercial real estate listings online, I found a larger, better-equipped facility available for lease just 2 miles from Frank's old location. The space had been a Midas franchise that closed during the pandemic, and it included 4 modern hydraulic lifts, a customer waiting area twice the size of our old shop, and state-of-the-art ventilation systems that would allow us to handle more complex repairs safely. The monthly lease was only $800 more than Frank had been paying for his outdated facility, but the improved efficiency, better equipment, and enhanced customer experience would easily justify the additional expense. More importantly, the location had superior visibility from the main road, ample parking for customer convenience, and modern amenities that would attract new customers while retaining the relationships I had already built. Frank had taught me an invaluable lesson about the difference between ownership and control. He owned the business legally through his fraudulent sale to Brad, but I controlled the relationships, knowledge, and reputation that made it successful. Brad could steal the building, equipment, and customer lists, but he couldn't steal my ability to outperform him in the marketplace where success was determined by competence rather than manipulation. 6 weeks after the devastating sale that had stolen 2 years of my life and every dollar I had invested, I opened Herman's Honest Auto in the former Midas location with 4 experienced mechanics, including Marcus Thompson and 2 others who had quit Brad's operation in disgust. The business name reflected my core philosophy and clearly distinguished my operation from the deceptive practices that had cost me so much. The grand opening event exceeded my most optimistic expectations and demonstrated the loyalty I had built through honest work and fair dealing. 47 of my former customers attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony, many bringing friends and family members who needed automotive services and wanted to support the mechanic they trusted. Word had spread rapidly through the community about what Frank and Brad had done, creating a groundswell of support for my new venture that no amount of advertising could have generated. People wanted to support the honest mechanic who had been betrayed, rather than the business that had benefited from that betrayal. Mrs. Patterson, an 83-year-old widow who had been bringing her late husband's Honda to me for 2 years, was the first customer through the door. "Herman, I don't care what name is on the building," she said with determination. "I trust you with my car, not them. You've always been honest with me, and that means everything when you're on a fixed income." My customer retention strategy focused on the personal relationships and trust I had built through consistent honesty and quality work. I knew that Mrs. Patterson needed her Honda serviced every 3,000 miles because her deceased husband had insisted on frequent oil changes to maintain the warranty. I remembered that Tom Wilson, a local contractor, always brought his work truck in early Monday mornings, so he could start his construction projects on time with reliable transportation. These personal details and individual relationships couldn't be stolen or transferred through legal documents. They represented genuine human connections that Brad couldn't replicate simply by inheriting customer lists and contact information. Within 3 months, Herman's Honest Auto was handling 60% of the customers who had previously used Frank's shop, a remarkable achievement considering we were starting from nothing while competing against an established location with inherited customer lists. My transparent pricing, superior equipment, and emphasis on honest communication attracted new clients who had heard about our reputation through referrals and positive online reviews. The modern facility allowed us to offer services that Brad's operation couldn't match or compete with effectively. Our computerized diagnostic systems could identify problems in hybrid and electric vehicles, opening up a rapidly growing market segment that required specialized knowledge and expensive equipment. We became the preferred shop for 3 local car dealerships that needed reliable partners for warranty work and customer referrals. Our appointment scheduling system, accessible through our website 24 hours a day, provided the convenience that modern customers expected. Our written estimates with detailed explanations eliminated the confusion and disputes that occurred when customers received unexpected bills. Our follow-up service, including courtesy calls to ensure satisfaction, built loyalty that translated into referrals and repeat business. Brad's response to losing customers was exactly what I had predicted based on my understanding of his character and business philosophy. He started cutting prices dramatically, offering oil changes for $15 and brake inspections for free. These desperate measures attracted some bargain hunters who prioritized low prices over quality work, but they also accelerated his financial losses and damaged his reputation among customers who understood that quality service required fair pricing. The pricing war that Brad initiated actually helped my business by highlighting the fundamental difference between our approaches to customer service. Customers quickly learned that Brad's discounted services often resulted in additional problems, hidden fees, and poor workmanship that required expensive corrections at other shops. Meanwhile, Herman's Honest Auto maintained consistent, fair pricing and delivered reliable results that built long-term customer loyalty and trust. Our customers understood that quality work required proper equipment, skilled technicians, and sufficient time to diagnose problems correctly rather than rushing through services to maximize volume. 6 months after opening, I received an unexpected and illuminating phone call from Michael Chen, a loan officer at First National Bank. He had been referred to me by one of my customers who knew about the connection between our businesses and thought I should understand the broader financial situation. "Herman, I probably shouldn't be sharing this information," Michael explained during our confidential meeting at his office. "But your father personally guaranteed Brad's loan for the shop purchase. Brad is 3 months behind on payments, and bank policy requires us to pursue the guarantor's assets if the borrower defaults on his obligations." Frank had risked his house, the family home where Jennifer and I had grown up, and where our childhood memories were stored, to secure Brad's loan for purchasing the auto repair shop. If Brad couldn't make the monthly payments of $1,200, the bank would foreclose on Frank's property to recover their losses. The personal guarantee meant that Frank would lose everything if Brad's business failed. The irony was devastating, perfect, and deeply satisfying. Frank had betrayed me to help Brad acquire the business, but Brad's incompetence and poor management were now threatening to cost Frank his home and financial security. The man who had sacrificed his son's future for his son-in-law's benefit was about to discover that his son-in-law couldn't handle the responsibility of running a successful business. Within 8 months of opening Herman's Honest Auto, I had achieved complete and total victory in the marketplace. Our monthly revenue exceeded $25,000, making us the highest-grossing independent auto repair shop in the county. We employed 6 full-time mechanics and maintained a 2-week waiting list for non-emergency repairs, clear indicators of success that couldn't be disputed or explained away. Brad's business was hemorrhaging money, customers, and credibility simultaneously. His attempt to compete through discounted pricing had failed spectacularly, leaving him with mounting debts, dissatisfied customers who complained about poor service, and equipment he couldn't afford to maintain properly. The original Frank's Auto Repair location sat half-empty most days, a hollow shell of the thriving business I had built and lost through betrayal. The transformation was visible and dramatic. Where I had once built a successful business through innovation and hard work, Brad had created a failing operation through incompetence and cost-cutting that compromised quality. The contrast couldn't have been more stark or satisfying. The phone call that changed everything came on a cold, rainy Thursday evening in November, exactly 10 months after Frank had sold the business behind my back. I was reviewing quarterly financial reports that showed Herman's Honest Auto had generated over $270,000 in revenue during our first full year of operation, making it the most successful period in my professional life. "Herman, it's your father. I need to talk to you." Frank's voice was smaller and more defeated than I had ever heard it, stripped completely of the arrogance and casual cruelty that had characterized our last conversation. Brad defaulted on the loan completely. "The bank is foreclosing on the house next week. I'm going to lose everything. The family home where I had learned to change oil in the driveway, where I had spent countless Saturday mornings helping Frank restore the 1978 Camaro that he eventually gave to Jennifer, was about to be seized by First National Bank. Frank had gambled everything on Brad's ability to manage a business successfully, and Brad had proven as incompetent and unreliable as I had predicted from the beginning. I made a terrible, inexcusable mistake. "Herman," Frank continued, his voice breaking with genuine emotion and regret. "I let gambling debts and favoritism toward Jennifer blind me completely to what was right and fair. You saved the business with your hard work and intelligence, and I threw away your trust and your future for someone who couldn't handle the responsibility I gave him. Frank's admission carried the weight of genuine remorse and painful self-awareness, but it couldn't undo the betrayal or restore the 2 years I had invested in building something I thought would be mine. The damage to our relationship and my faith in family loyalty was permanent, regardless of his current desperation and newfound clarity. Jennifer wants to talk to you too, Frank continued, his voice barely above a whisper. She understands now that helping Brad steal your work cost our entire family, our security, and our relationships. She wants to apologize and ask for your forgiveness, if you're willing to listen. Jennifer's call came the next day, her voice shaky with emotion and barely controlled tears. Herman, I know I don't have the right to ask for anything from you, but I need you to understand that I didn't realize how wrong we were until Brad started failing and blaming everyone else for his problems. I thought I was helping my husband succeed, but I was really helping him steal from my brother. The conversation revealed the full extent of Brad's character transformation under pressure. When his copied business model couldn't succeed without my personal involvement, expertise, and commitment to quality, he had turned angry and abusive toward Jennifer. He blamed her for not stealing enough detailed information from my operation, accused Frank of misrepresenting the business's value and potential, and refused to take any responsibility for his own incompetence and poor management decisions. He's been treating me terribly, Jennifer continued, her voice filled with pain and regret. He says the business failed because I didn't get enough information from you. He calls me stupid for not understanding that copying your systems wasn't enough if I couldn't copy your work ethic and knowledge. I was wrong to help him spy on you, Herman. I was wrong to betray my own brother for someone who turned out to be completely unworthy of that sacrifice. Jennifer's marriage was collapsing under the pressure of Brad's business failure and his inability to accept responsibility for his own shortcomings. The man she had betrayed her family to help had proven himself to be incompetent, abusive, and willing to blame everyone except himself for his failures. Can you ever forgive me? Jennifer asked. And is there any way you could help Dad keep the house? I know we don't deserve your help after what we did, but I don't know where else to turn. You're the only one who succeeded, the only one who built something real and lasting. These phone calls forced me to confront a fundamental choice about the kind of person I wanted to be and the values I wanted to demonstrate. I could allow Frank and Jennifer to face the complete consequences of their betrayal, without any assistance from me, which would be entirely justified given their treatment of me and the pain they had caused. Alternatively, I could demonstrate the character and values that had made my business successful, extending grace and assistance even toward people who had harmed me deeply. This choice would define not only their futures, but also my own character and the kind of man I would become. My decision reflected the lessons I had learned about building something sustainable versus seeking temporary revenge. Success built through integrity and honest work was more satisfying and lasting than victory achieved through others' failures, even when those others had betrayed me. I agreed to help Frank under specific conditions that would address the root causes of our family's dysfunction while protecting my own interests and establishing healthy boundaries for future relationships. These conditions weren't punitive. They were designed to create accountability and prevent similar problems in the future. First, Frank had to publicly acknowledge my contributions to saving the original business and admit to forging my signature on the sale documents. This wasn't about humiliation or punishment. It was about establishing truth and accountability as the foundation for any future relationship between us. Second, both Frank and Jennifer had to commit to family counseling sessions designed to address the gender favoritism and enabling behaviors that had created this cycle of dysfunction. I wasn't willing to rebuild trust without addressing the underlying attitudes and behaviors that had led to the betrayal in the first place. Third, I would purchase the family home directly from the bank at the foreclosure price, allowing Frank to remain as a tenant under a clear lease agreement. This arrangement protected the house from any future gambling debts or poor financial decisions, while establishing appropriate boundaries between us. Finally, I offered Jennifer a legitimate entry-level position at Herman's Honest Auto, giving her an opportunity to earn my trust through honest work rather than manipulation. She would start as a receptionist and customer service representative, learning the business properly instead of stealing information for someone else's benefit. The resolution took 4 months to complete, involving lawyers, counselors, and difficult conversations that forced our family to confront years of unhealthy patterns and destructive behaviors. Frank admitted to his gambling addiction and entered a comprehensive treatment program that addressed both the compulsive behavior and the underlying emotional issues that had led to his financial desperation. Jennifer thrived in her new role at Herman's Honest Auto, discovering that she genuinely enjoyed interacting with customers and learning about automotive systems. Her attention to detail and communication skills, previously used for deception and betrayal, became valuable assets for building customer relationships and managing complex scheduling requirements. She proved herself to be intelligent, capable, and genuinely committed to earning redemption through honest work. Her transformation from someone who had betrayed family trust to someone who contributed positively to our business success was remarkable and deeply satisfying to witness. Brad's business closed permanently in February, unable to compete with my superior service, established customer relationships, and technical expertise. He filed for bankruptcy protection, moved out of state to avoid his debts and responsibilities, and ended his marriage to Jennifer by abandoning the family he had claimed was so important to him. The experience taught me that the greatest victories come from building something authentic and sustainable rather than inheriting something unearned or stealing from others' hard work. Losing the family business had initially felt like devastating failure, but it actually freed me to create something better on my own terms with my own values. Herman's Honest Auto became more than a successful business. It became proof that character and competence ultimately matter more than family connections, inherited advantages, or deceptive schemes. My customers trusted me because I had earned their confidence through consistent honesty and quality work, not because I had inherited a reputation or manipulated my way to success. By the end of my second year as an independent business owner, Herman's Honest Auto employed 8 skilled technicians, maintained partnerships with 5 insurance companies, and had expanded into a second location specializing in hybrid and electric vehicle service. We had become the premier automotive service provider in our region through merit rather than manipulation. The deeper lesson reached beyond business success to fundamental questions about self-worth, family relationships, and personal integrity. I learned that sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is forcing you to prove your own capabilities rather than accepting their definition of your value. Frank's comment about men not needing gifts had been accidentally prophetic. I didn't need his gift of a restored car or his promise of business ownership. What I needed was the opportunity to build something myself, to succeed based on my own efforts and character rather than inherited advantages or family favoritism. The family relationships we rebuilt were stronger and healthier than what we had before because they were based on mutual respect, accountability, and honest communication rather than favoritism, enabling, and deception. Frank learned to value both his children equally and address his gambling addiction honestly. Jennifer discovered her own capabilities and worth through legitimate work rather than manipulation. Most importantly, I established boundaries that protected my success while maintaining family connections. I learned that forgiveness and assistance didn't require returning to old patterns or accepting disrespectful treatment. True success isn't measured by what you inherit, receive as gifts, or steal from others, but by what you create through your own efforts and contribute to the world around you. Herman's Honest Auto succeeded because it was built on genuine relationships, quality work, and honest dealing. These foundations couldn't be stolen, copied, or transferred. They could only be earned through consistent character and competent service. The story that began with betrayal, theft, and family favoritism ended with redemption, growth, and genuine success for everyone involved. Sometimes the most painful experiences become the catalyst for discovering who you really are and what you're truly capable of achieving when you refuse to accept others' limitations on your potential. In losing everything I thought I wanted, I gained everything I actually needed: independence, self-respect, financial security, and the unshakable knowledge that my success belonged entirely to me. No one could take that away because I had built it through my own character, competence, and determination. Have you ever experienced favoritism in your family that made you feel like your efforts and achievements didn't matter as much as someone else's? How did you handle that situation? And what did you learn about yourself and your own capabilities in the process? Share your experiences and insights in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you or reminded you of your own challenges with family dynamics, please like this video to help others find it. Subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family betrayal, building success on your own terms, and discovering your true potential. And share this with anyone who might be struggling with similar family favoritism or business betrayal situations. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that your worth and potential aren't determined by how others treat you, but by the character, determination, and integrity you show when facing life's greatest challenges and most painful betrayals.